Hello, and welcome to Miss Mo Storyteller. I am Mo Reynolds, your storyteller, and we travel the world through stories. No passports required. Let's get going. Before we begin today, we're going to breathe. And we are going to breathe like big, cold, white snowflakes. When we breathe in, the snowflake's going to get bigger. And when we breathe out, it's going to get smaller. We're going to take 2 big snowflake breaths. Are you ready? Breathe in. Breathe out. One more. Grow that snowflake. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let's do it. You know what to do. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go with Miss Mo. 2 more. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go with Miss Mo. Last time. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go with Miss Mo. Shh. The snow was white and sparkling. The Lord, Masamune, not a great lord, but great enough, looked out on the snowy fields and smiled. He told his servants, snow means a good harvest. A good harvest means happy people, and happy people means peace. Out on the porch of the house, one of the servants, Hiroshi, was shivering in the cold. He had only one job, to take care of the master Masamune's shoes. Now these were wooden clogs. They looked sort of like flip-flops on the top, and then they were a platform of wood beneath. And as Hiroshi shivered in the cold, he saw that the clogs, the wooden shoes, were being covered in snow. Oh no, he thought, the master will step into those, they will be cold and wet, and then he will get sick. And he did something very small but very kind. He picked up the shoes and he put them under his shirt so they were close to his skin where they could get warm and dry. He heard the master coming, and he ran over and he put the shoes down just outside the door so the master could just step into them. And when the master opened the door, he stepped into the shoes and he felt that they were warm and dry. And you would think he would be grateful, but he was angry. He turned and looked at the servant. You, he didn't even know Hiroshi's name. You, he said, you sat on my shoes. You sat on my shoes to keep yourself warmer and off of the ground. How dare you? And without even waiting for an explanation, he picked up one of the wooden shoes and threw it at Hiroshi. It hit Hiroshi in the forehead and it began bleeding very badly. The master, Masamune, picked up the other wooden shoe and threw it at Hiroshi. Then he turned and walked off barefoot. Hiroshi dropped to his knees, holding his bleeding head. All the other servants, they were too afraid to talk to Hiroshi or to help him. Masamune might throw a shoe at them too. And so they turned and followed Masamune and left Hiroshi alone and bleeding. Hiroshi got up to his legs and stumbled off of the porch and dropped into the snow where the blood from his head made wet spots on the white snow. And as he felt his own heartbeat in his head, he only thought one thing. I will make him pay. I will make him pay. And so Hiroshi stumbled off away from the master's house. But how, he thought, how can I make him pay for what he's done? I'm a poor, lowly servant. In order to make Masamune pay, he would have to be more powerful than he. And the only way a lowly poor servant could do that was to become a priest in a respected temple. And so Hiroshi gave away everything he had and went to work at a temple in Kyoto. He came in with nothing, and he scrubbed floors, he cleaned toilets, he cooked food, he worked in silence. and all the other older priests ignored him, or if they spoke to him, it was only to correct him or tell him what he was doing wrong. And as Hiroshi scrubbed those floors, he only had one thought. I will make him pay. I will make him pay. And then he would pull out of his pocket that old wooden shoe, still stained with his own blood. And he would think to himself, I can do this one more day. And then one day became 1 week. 1 week became 1 month. 1 month became 1 year. 1 year became 20. But he did not just scrub floors for 20 years. No, he learned how to read. He learned how to write. He learned how to draw. He learned how to speak to people. He grew more and more respected and powerful. He left the temple in Kyoto and went to a bigger temple in Osaka. Then he left the temple in Osaka and went to an even bigger temple in Tokyo. Hiroshi had become one of the most respected priests in all of Japan. And so he went to China, where he could learn even more. He learned painting and poetry and pottery. He became the most well-known and beloved priest in all of China and all of Japan. And that is when his moment arrived. The Emperor of Japan fell ill. He was dying, and no doctor was able to help him. The Emperor wrote to Hiroshi, begging for him to come and help. And so Hiroshi came, and he held the hand of the emperor, and he said, I will pray for you. I will go to the temple and do nothing but pray. I will not even eat. For 7 days he did nothing but pray. And on the 7th day, the emperor was healed. There were parades, there were fireworks, songs were written for Hiroshi, poems were written for Hiroshi, the wonderful priest who saved the emperor and now sat right beside him. Now, he thought, I can make him pay. All he would have to do is whisper a suspicion about Masamune, and the emperor would have him banished, thrown in prison, or worse. But it had been 30 years, and Hiroshi was not the only one who had gotten more powerful. Masamune had also grown more powerful and more wealthy. Instead of just hundreds of acres, he now had thousands of acres, and on one of those acres was a beautiful temple. And he wanted a priest to come and live in his temple, and he wanted only the best. He wrote a letter to the emperor asking for the great priest Hiroshi to come and live in his temple. Remember, Masamune never learned Hiroshi's name. Hiroshi agreed. He came to the temple, and a few days after he had moved in, Masamune climbed the mountain to the temple to welcome the priest. When he walked in the temple, he saw the strangest thing. He saw an old wooden shoe stained with dirt or blood, and he was sitting on an altar surrounded by beautiful flowers. And Masamune thought, what is this? A strange priest who would put an old dirty wooden shoe in such a place of honor. He heard a cough, and he saw the emperor shuffling in. His hair, or not the emperor, the priest, Hiroshi, shuffling in. His hair was long and white, and he had a red scar on his forehead. But Masamune did not know him. He bowed to the priest, and he said, I hope you have everything you need, Your Holiness, but I have a question. I noticed this shoe, this old wooden shoe, in such a place of honor. Why is that? Hiroshi looked Masamune deep in the eyes, and he asked him, do you know who I am? Masamune laughed. Yes, you are Hiroshi, the greatest priest in all of Japan. That is why I asked you to come. Hiroshi, still smiling, said, I was not always a priest. Many, many years ago, I was a servant, And on a very, very snowy day, you threw that shoe at me. Masamune suddenly saw his old servant before him. He dropped to his knees. How are you here? Hiroshi was still smiling. That day that you threw that shoe at my head, I left, and I could only think of one phrase. I will make him pay. I became a priest. I scrubbed floors. I cleaned toilets. I suffered in silence. I learned how to read and to write. I learned pottery, poetry, and prayer. I rose to be the greatest priest in Japan, and I sat next to the emperor, knowing that this was the moment that I could whisper in his ear and make you pay. Masamune was trembling now, and he asked Hiroshi, is this the moment? Is this the moment you make me pay for what I did? And Hiroshi smiled and said, when the time came, I looked at that shoe and I realized I no longer wanted to make you pay. I realized that if you had not thrown that shoe at me, I would have stayed your servant forever. But instead, I learned to read. I learned to write. I learned pottery and prayer and poetry. I have a comfortable bed to sleep in. I have all the food that I need. And so I decided to look at that shoe without anger, but to look at that shoe and say thank you. And so Masamune realized he had now become the servant. He bowed to Hiroshi and asked him if he could come and learn from him. And Hiroshi agreed. So every day Masamune climbed the mountain. He bowed to the shoe. He bowed to Hiroshi. Then he scrubbed floors. He cleaned toilets. He cooked food. He suffered in silence. He learned about pottery, poetry, and prayers. And most of all, he learned how to be grateful. Let's say goodbye. Miss Mo, Miss Mo, Miss Mo has got to go. 2 more, Miss Mo, Miss Mo, Miss Mo has got to go. Last time, Miss Mo, Miss Mo, Miss Mo has got to go. Bye! I hope you enjoyed that story, and I hope you learned something. I hope today you can find a moment to say thank you to someone that has helped you. And I hope that the next time you feel angry at someone, instead of yelling, you ask them a question, because curiosity goes a long way. Please tune in for other stories. Subscribe to Miss Mo Storyteller. And if you'd like to subscribe also to the Storytelling Teacher newsletter, where you can get a weekly lesson plan that goes along with each of our stories. All those links are below. For now, keep telling stories. See you next time.